General Motors, Ford, Toyota, and many other traditional automakers are saying that their sales are falling through the floor because of the chip shortage. For some reason, some others are having no issues whatsoever. I've been baffled by this, but I think I've figured out what's going on. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Electrek Viking. Hope you've had an awesome day. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Fantastic to see you back here again. Now, if you haven't already, be stoked if you could jump on my Patreon account and support the channel even more. But either way, you're watching this video is support in and of itself. Now, Clean Technica had a guest post recently called "What You Won't Hear or See in the News on the Automotive Chip Shortage." The automotive industry needs to design new circuit boards for newer chips and replace the antiques. They are resisting the investment and they are lacking the in-house know-how. Now, this post was written by Jim Ringgold, and before I share this with you, I want to share with you something that's baffled me. Why is it that XPeng can double their sales this year? No problems. NIO can double their sales. Tesla can virtually almost double their sales. BYD can double their sales. Many other automakers, smaller automakers, have doubled their sales. And some automakers have barely been affected by the chip shortage, and yet General Motors, Ford, and Toyota, and some others say that their sales are crashing because of coming up with their own reasons, lots of complicated reasons, lots of crazy kind of conspiracy theories, all kinds of things. But I believe this is the best explanation. The processor chips the big old automakers use in their vehicles are older than the cell phone. They designed their circuit boards for those old chips and have been using them for decades. They've done the job well enough. Now, though, the automotive industry wants more of those old, obsolete chips. The chip fabrication shops, chip manufacturers are not interested in investing in producing obsolete chips. That would be a bad short-term investment for them. They know the industry is transitioning to electric cars, which don't use old chips, they use new ones, particularly because they require over-the-air updates, which aren't possible using old chips. Now, the automotive industry needs to design new circuit boards for newer chips and replace the antiques. They are resisting the investment and they are lacking the in-house know-how. The average vehicle has a dozen or more simple processors, all programmed to talk to each other, the way of the 1980s when they first went to chips from relays. One of the reasons why electric cars are more reliable than ICE vehicles. The new way is like Tesla does it, a single processor that does everything, from transmitting the click for the turn signal over to the audio speakers to operating the ABS brakes. A single processor does everything. Everything electric can be revised with central computer programming. Okay, I lied. The display screens each have an Intel Atom processor. The reason Tesla can continue to produce cars during the chip shortage is because it can replace a chip that is in short supply with another one and simply reprogram the central computer to the new chip characteristics. In addition to that, Tesla really has only two main models, the Tesla Model 3 and the Tesla Model Y. Both use the same chips, of course, so in theory they only have one model. Therefore, this situation is an easier thing for Tesla engineers to take on, whereas at a company like Volkswagen, who has 70 models, GM has who knows how many models, Ford, who knows how many models they have, well, you can imagine the challenges there. Now, the old fossil fuel car companies cannot make this transition without a huge commitment. Besides not having the finances and the know-how to do so, it would take years and involve bringing each model over to the central processor system one by one by one by one. Starting car design from a modern, clean CAD drawing does have huge advantages. And by the way, some manufacturers proudly announce that they now have over-the-air updates, but not for all the computer chips in the vehicle, only a select few. Thus, the reason cars like the Jaguar I-Pace, who say they'll have over-the-air updates, never actually do any. Those manufacturers that cannot or will not transition will drop back or fail because the central processor design is cheaper to build cheaper to modify, and can even provide full self-driving software. So the reason that Legacy Auto is having such a hard time getting chips is that nobody wants to build new fabs with decades-old technology. This is part of the reason why Tesla has continued to grow. So has NIO, so has XPeng, so has BYD, as the rest of the industry halts production. Now, there is a comment on this article which disputes some of what it says, so you make up your own mind and I'll share it with you. Canadian says it's not a matter of redesigning circuit boards for new chips, nor are automakers in love with outdated chips. Automotive grade chips must meet stringent ISO standards for stuff like operational temperature range and electrostatic discharge. Chips made for consumer electronics like cell phones just aren't going to cut it. But the economy of scale is very different between the two industries. No chip maker is going to spend the money tapping out a new die for just 1 million units. It's the chip makers themselves who lock automakers into outdated designs because they want to sell it for 10 years to make up the non-recurring engineer expenses of developing the automotive grade version of the chip. Now, this is where designing your own chips has its advantage. Of course, you still need to manufacture them in batches of at least 500,000 for a foundry to pencil in a manufacturing time slot. The minimum size of the batch is determined by the size of wafers, the particular node in a particular process. It's extreme. That's probably why I've been confused. Or the explanation could be simpler. COVID hit, vehicle demand fell short term, manufacturers cancelled and suspended existing contracts from suppliers, and in turn, chip manufacturers. Chip manufacturers respond to increased demand for personal devices like phones and computers because more people are working from home, of course. Then vehicle manufacturers resume their production and try to restart their supply chain, and chip manufacturers give them the finger and say, well, you've got to wait in line. We are too busy to take your order anytime soon. Now, I believe this is definitely part of the equation. If you look at car manufacturing sales in 2020 versus the previous year in 2019, they fell dramatically. So it's very likely that many consumers, such as Ford and Hyundai, General Motors, predicted their vehicle sales would be similar the following year. But the funny thing is, their sales the following year will be similar, but sales of their disruptors will be much higher. You can see that from all the videos I've made talking about this exact phenomenon. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.